And
For me.
RRC. We're gonna have someone with RRC Associates who does surveys on to go through.
Typically forest fires and lawn fires in the garden spot in Colorado are typically frowned upon. No, it's yeah. I think the one that's currently up in the air is pivot irrigation, like just decorative, obviously. But I think that is, it just looks so cool, like it's even just up and just shrunk down for people to kind of look at. I've been pushing, like, please get this thing set up so that there's like an area that there could be an outdoor skating rink just seasonal. Right, from like December to like February, just, fill it up and it'll just stay cold and people can come out there and ice skate. That would be so.
Oh, not a,
Would be cool.
I
So, yeah, I think it's nice.
we have a guaranteed spot in the playoffs for Super Smash Bros.
Watch
Yeah.
the plans and that's gonna be
Scan it.
Yeah, we have a guaranteed spot.
So she'll be able
So
to take
excited.
notes digitally.
Okay.
Not.
Well, if not, I at least have practice. Okay, it was the keyboard that threw me because I'm an Apple person, so it's like.
Anything you
Do
wanna
I
say?
need to meet with?
To offer a older version of the.
You remember we talked that we were gonna do the tree alley as a memorial, but we never got any further, so we were gonna.
That's where I stand on it. I so get it, I mean, yeah.
So this is where you guys
Because I ended up,
You have Tyler's.
but I heard you said just call me.
I should have,
Yes.
cause he's contacted me, I just don't know when.
I'm so glad, yeah.
So I should just get in touch with him myself.
All is well. I did get it.
We're gonna meet.
She was on it. She was. I might talk about just how much she just needs to say. They all need to stand up. But I'd actually, we need to go
I
to
know when I
the
brought it up, we stopped.
driveway and look across the
currently have
entire
a public
farm
outlook.
because
But as
Deb,
we get closer, start.
Yeah,
right on the driveway.
Yeah, because I remember, I mean,
You've seen
besides the
this.
farm center, we got it.
You might
I
have.
don't think we got it. How actual
This is the thing, like if you
I
go
don't know
to
for
very eastern thing and you stand in
I need to figure out.
it's a lot like wagon. Hey, it's not as it's not as many.
With it not being like a tiny little area,
It's the same.
putting trees in.
Anyway, thank you. It's not late.
You be involved with,
I don't wanna smell like late. So you're with her?
You'd like to do a plaque.
yes.
I'd rather smell like cookies.
So, like I said, we have some donation. So,
Clean a lot.
anyway, that's just some of those details as we move ahead.
Perfect. We haven't had our first talk with Link since we started with construction documents. You know, they've just got the contract back to them.
Remember it's,
Hello.
it's our last break, people plant trees.
That's
no one
crazy.
wants to sit in the shade before that's kind of fun.
There's Wi-Fi here.
Even though you really use it.
I will, I'll put down the.
There's a lot of visitors. So do you
Well, I
want
try
to just?
to attend these meetings now because I tend to lose track of where everything is.
Okay.
I'll stay a little bit.
You get the honor of sitting up there. And I think that's how it'll go. I'd say.
Pasture grass, and that's when they cleaned up the year last year.
Yeah,
I'll take your-
email me and get credit. Okay, deal.
So, I think he's gonna try to do that again. And just knowing that it's something
Just get that one
easy.
dance or?
I have to go
Are
to.
you guys doing monthly?
I think it's a grass, or he's doing, I don't think it's part not absolutely sure, he just puts it in, and I say good. I don't know too much about it.
Okay, yeah, I asked,
Oh, their decisions.
yeah, I just asked to tell last week if he got in there yet, he said he hasn't.
Well, it hasn't been easy to get into.
Historical.
Because it's wet. Alrighty, well, thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna end. You got. Yeah, mom, there's a few representatives of the advisory commission that are here.
If this is Audrey,
This is Audrey.
so she needs to sit up here,
Okay.
I don't have a name tag yet. Yeah.
So grab one of those two seats down there that are blank.
Okay, I just wanna make sure you.
It's your committee. I'm just here to say, you have to.
Thank you. You should be able to see the Wi-Fi. Well, I don't know what the Wi-Fi is.
Hi.
We have a representative.
We do. It's on the train.
I would give t-shirts for this. Swag is locked up.
Yeah.
Outlets. It's like,
Because of the playoffs, first night.
Oh, you know what I mean?
Doesn't mean it's.
You have a guaranteed spot. That's the mail.
And
I saved it because they have this huge, it's because they were trying to partner with the, no, because this is the school mom is also.
Yeah.
And they were trying to just. That's why I saved it.
So Crystal will not be here tonight. And then Anna is on Zoom. Let's see, Anna, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you guys.
Good.
Is Anna taking notes?
Oh yeah, good question. Anna, are you taking notes?
Yeah, I'm gonna take notes. If I, for some reason, can't hear you all, I will let you know and maybe have somebody else take notes. But I'm planning on taking notes today.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. First, we'll do roll call. Carolyn? Here. Anna?
Here? Here?
Tim?
Here.
Callie?
Here.
Crystal's not here, you said?
Right.
Sean?
Here.
And then our Birth and Youth Advisory Commission liaison or committee liaison tonight, Audrey Roth. Here. Carl?
Here.
Keith?
Here.
Right. Okay, so next up is approval of the minutes from the Wednesday, March 6th meeting, 2024. Did anyone have anything wanted to add or change? Get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, the minutes from the March 6th, 2024 meeting are approved.
Tell her.
Oh,
Oh.
she could. Oh, that's true. Tim motion to approve and Carolyn seconded to approve. So next up, we have public comment. Any public comment? You have public comment?
My name is Sarah Lincoln and I live at 236 Highway 56, which is Newell Farm. The reason why I'm here is because you guys are working on that survey and I got to hear what you were doing last time. And I thought I would just point out that the original vision of Newell Farm was to create a music venue. You know, there's already an amphitheater there that we spent a couple $100,000 on. And so the original thought was create another stage, maybe have an indoor performing arts center, whatever, where then the park can serve as like a festival site. And in Greeley, they have something that is, it's called Art in the Park. So they bring in different bands and then they bring in all kinds of arts and crafts vendors from across the nation. And then they create a gathering place for families. It's a wonderful weekend. And so that was the thought, to create an arts park. Sculptures, crafts, music, places where people can rent, you know, not rent, but reserve the pavilions. And the pavilions that we were thinking of would also double as a stage, you know, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to ask you if on the survey you could think about, in addition to talking about ball fields and pools, which are really important, but we've defined in the deed restrictions that recreation is what you do when you're not working. And Music is one of those things. Art is one of those things. Gathering as families is one of those things. So where we can, if we could include at least music and arts in some way in the lists of people, that people can choose from, it would be really neat, and then they can begin to think, oh, there can be other things besides bike paths and, other ways to use our parks, that kind of thing, just to put it in there. Doesn't mean Newell Farm is going to be moved up on any priority list, that's not what I'm asking. But let's just get the thought in the mix, if you don't mind. Any question or comment or? Good, okay, thank you.
Hello. My name is Zoe Taylor. I'm the chair of the Berthoud Youth Advisory Commission. My name is Cloud. I am the co-chair of the Berthoud Youth Advisory.
And I'm Joe, I'm the treasurer.
Perfect. So we've heard that you guys are talking about maybe an outdoor pool and trying to get it kickstarted sooner than later. So, and that you guys kind of want our support and opinion on how to get it out to the youth a little bit more. So I'm a junior, so I am upperclassman of the high school, and I know a lot of the things that we look forward to are just being outside, if that helps get, I don't know what you guys are kind of looking for and the voice of us, what do you kind of want our help with?
How do you use pools outside in the summer? What are some of the activities you think of when you're going to a water place?
I guess I can see. I know that there was a thought that we could use it for Berthoud High swim meets. And so I know there was a concern that we could only use it for 3 months if it's outdoor, but my mom brought up a good point when we were talking about this the other night, is there's the YMCA down in Lafayette. It has a bubble that it can put up in the winter, so then it has full year capabilities and it's still outdoor. So I mean, that could be a thought so that it can be used all year round.
Is that bubble a building or is it
I'm
really-
not sure, I'm pretty sure it's disassemblable, so during the summer they can take it down and then in the winter they can put it up.
Yeah, they looked at those originally, as an option. To be truly indoor outdoor.
Yeah, oh cool.
Yeah, and then just overall summer enjoyment, just having a chance to get outside somewhere close here in Berthoud. I know especially with the people that can't drive, somewhere close they can walk to is probably beneficial. And then I know you're planning on putting a survey out and need help with questions probably of what to put in there. So I recommend about, I don't know, talking about how often would you use it or stuff like that. Yeah. Do you guys have any more questions?
I do, just related to transportation,
Mhm.
getting old now, so as far as drivers, and let's just say juniors and seniors, what percentage of kids are driving now?
So probably
Just an estimate,
an estimate, probably about 90% of juniors and seniors drive.
90%, okay, so it's still, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then there are quite a few sophomores that drive too. It's majority of us drive, so upperclassmen, we might not use it as much, just as a heads up, because we might just go to Carter Lake, but it's definitely a great option for underclassmen and middle schoolers that need that chance to get out. And the rec center is doing an amazing job of allowing kids to have that chance to go to the pool and just walk there, but it's also a great idea to have something outdoors.
I have another question. If you have memories or an experience at the town park pool, how important was it to you to have grassy areas exterior to the pool where you could just hang out and socialize and just sort of chill?
I guess it was a good spot to relax because I know for Boy Scouts we've had a few meetings there, so it's just a good open space. And also it's right by the old baseball field, so when my brother had a baseball game, we could go hang out there and other stuff like that.
Yeah. Honestly, I used it a bunch and I used it for softball parties and stuff, and it was amazing to have that outdoor area. Kind of comparing it to Winona in Loveland, they have a volleyball net up in that area, and I know that gets used very often, and so it's personally, I think it's an amazing spot to just like have area where kids can play around that's not in the water. And I mean, if you do have like senior swim, you can, like, kids have a place to hang out in that little short break that they can't be in the water. Yeah. Anything else?
How much would the like bubble that you were talking about earlier from the YMCA cost? Like, any idea on that?
I've not researched it, so I do not know.
Alright.
Anything else?
We appreciate you guys coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, again, and we'll be at every single one of these meetings, so if there's ever questions or it gets brought up in meetings, we'll have someone here to have input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike Grease, 2188 Cadman, actually also trustee for Town of Berthoud. Didn't, wanted to kind of, Mayor Pro Tem, all that good, it's fine. No, it's actually wanted to say, first of all, outdoor pool with Richardson Park, whatever's gonna get named. That was honestly a great opportunity. I know you guys are getting tons of feedback on it. I'm not gonna get in the middle of that because I think you guys are doing an amazing job, which brings me to the reason I'm up here. Wanted to say thank you to all of you up here. I know the board, we get a lot of the stuff that comes down from you guys, and there's a lot of incredibly thoughtful and sometimes overly long meetings that you come down to this little thing had to tweak and it took 2 hours of conversation to figure it out. It matters and it counts, and I'm honestly, every time I see all these reports come in from you guys or from planning or anybody, there's a lot of thoughtfulness in there, there's a lot of community engagement in there, and I just wanted to say thank you. I know that this is, a lot of your volunteer time, this is your own personal time, and I know these meetings can get very long-winded and tedious. I get it, and I wanna say thank you guys from, as me, knowing that the community has people interested in parks, interested in preserving the head and moving it onwards, so you guys, Carl's amazing as a trustee, shut up. No, I just wanna say thank you guys sincerely, thank you very much for spending your time here. This does add up and count in the long run, so, that's all I got.
Can I say something?
It's not my meeting, so shut up.
Can I say something, Keith?
Yes.
Hey Mike, thanks for all you do too. I know you spend a lot of time in very long meetings as well, probably longer than our port meeting, so thank you for all you do.
So, Carl does the same thing. We get the same vote power, but it's a lot of community engagement, and it's honestly really awesome to see. So thank you all. And I'll get out of the way for public comment to keep moving.
Any other public comment?
Nothing online.
Alright, move on to discussion items.
Yep. Alright. Let's let me check, we have someone from our RC Associates joining us. Kaylin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. Alright, I'm gonna do a quick introduction. We started with the Port Committee last month, kind of looking through the last 2 surveys, picking some things. I think you saw the little draft I tried to put together based on that. I know it's not perfect. What we've done is we've asked RRC to work with us on creating a survey. This is their specialty. It's really important we get someone who understands how to write surveys, so they're statistically valid and that they're also good at helping us not create questions on either side that could be leading in any way. RRC did our 2016 survey, so it's good when you work with the same survey companies because you can cross-reference stuff from 2016 and they have that data and they can put the graphs and stuff together a lot easier with that data. So we've had one meeting with them where we basically shared the draft and tried to say how this process got started, really. They've had a short amount of time to try to put together a draft survey here that's a little better than my draft thoughts, of course. It's a lot better than my draft thoughts. And so what we'll do today is we'll go through this current draft of the survey. The goal that we have with the help of RRC is we'd go through the draft, give their comments, and then come back in May and hopefully have a pretty complete survey to approve that we could take to the board probably the second meeting in May. That would be our goal right there. For the board to also provide input as well. So with that, Kaylin, what's the best thing to do? Do you wanna do an introduction of yourself at all?
Sure, yeah, I'll just do a quick introduction. I'll turn my camera on. I'm not sure if everyone can see me, but my name is Kaylin Haskovic. I am an associate at RRC, and I've been with the company for about 5 years. I manage all of our Parks and Recreation surveys, and so we do many across the country as well as within Colorado as well. And I saw on your agenda today, you're also discussing the Our Lands, Our Future project with Larimer County, and that was something that we did the research for as well. And I'm just up in Westminster. Sorry, I wasn't able to make it down today. As Keith said, there's kind of a quick turnaround to pull this draft together, but we had a good starting place based off of the information that you guys worked on, based off the past survey, and then some of the new questions that you want asked this year. And just as a kind of high level overview of how it works is we'll go ahead and mail out paper surveys to everyone in the town, and that would it's a 4-page paper survey, and we find that that's the right length to collect quality data without overburdening the respondents. You know, there's plenty of surveys out there, so we want to make it concise, but also make sure that you're getting the data that you need to make informed decisions. And then with the paper survey, we'll also have a cover letter that gives a little bit of an introduction, as well as a URL. So if respondents prefer to take it online, they're able to. We'll have the URL as well as a QR code and a passcode. So we know that there's only one response per household, so people aren't taking it multiple times, just to control the sample a little bit. And then what we also do typically once we've got our statistically valid sample, we open it up to the public. So that may be people coming into the town using your facilities, or maybe they work in Berthoud and would like to provide feedback as well, or perhaps another member of the household would like to complete the survey. So we'll open it up to the public. And then when we get into reporting, we keep the statistically valid separate from what we call the open link or the publicly available survey. And we put that together in a PowerPoint report. As Keith mentioned, we do have the 2016 data, so we're able to compare over time. And what I'll do is I can share my screen and we can hop into the draft. This is kind of based off of the 2016 survey where I pulled in the new questions that we discussed yesterday. So at this point it's a little too lengthy, but I kept in questions that we did ask last time just as a starting place to decide if that information is still relevant, and if it's something that we would like to ask again and see how results have changed over the past 6 years. Are there any questions on the general process or RRC before we jump in?
And I'll bring up some stuff. It's gonna be great to get some data to compare back to 2016, 2018 to see, okay, what's shifted since then? Because we've been growing a lot since then, even in the Parks Department. There's challenges where we know we have new project amenities that not everyone in the town knows about. So I think that's something we're trying to also learn from this survey, is maybe creating a forecast for the next few years on what to do. So I don't think we have that figured out yet, how we're gonna present how do we tell someone about the Jaskowski property that's never, no one probably knows we have that property, right? So we know there's some challenges there to work into this survey. But with that tonight, we want to try to get through this. We don't want to get into the weeds with too many. I'm stuck on one question too long. We want to try to get through it, get our feedback in. And then maybe look back, okay, what do we think the survey might have been missing or something like that, so. I know as staff, we've had a quick time to look through this, so I'll throw in some staff comments here and there, but with that, I think I'm ready to go if you all.
Do you have another copy of the survey for Audrey?
And one thing I'd mention to Keith's note is the survey can also be an educational opportunity. Something we discussed is potentially including a map, which we can use to identify where respondents live in town, but also maybe point out some of those lesser known facilities or parks. So that's something we typically do as well. But we also want to make sure that we're giving the respondent all the information that they need to provide a quality response. If it's possible to share my screen, I'm happy to, or it sounds like you guys have the surveys in front of you, so we can just walk through it.
I will present on my side. I'm not,
Okay.
unless you got extra things you can do. I think you can share.
It's saying that it's disabled at this point, but if the host wanted to allow that.
It's not giving me a spot.
Is it important for the visitors? Can you all see it and do you want to?
Security, can you just click share
That
screen?
little top, that little arrow next to share screen, next to the main clip, there's a little up arrow
That
right
one.
there,
Yeah.
yep.
That's it.
And then right there, multiple participants, and there you go.
Well, that's
Yeah.
in share simultaneous.
See if you can do that now.
Hopefully that helps.
Yep, that works. Thank you. Can you see my screen? I think it's still loading, but
Great.
okay, wonderful. So again, this is a first draft, so we're kind of thinking about the questions at a higher level, and then we'll have a chance to really get more detailed into the wording a little bit later on, but we just want to understand if we're asking the right questions or if there's anything we're missing. So keep that in mind as we go through this survey. These first two are from the previous survey, just kind of standard information to get from the respondent, how long they've lived in Berthoud, and whether they live in the town or outside the town. Anyone who's getting the statistically valid survey will live in the town of Berthoud. So this is the opportunity where we could ask, according to the map, which area of Berthoud do you live in? And these two questions here also provide an opportunity to dive into the results a little bit deeper, to do some crosstab analysis. So we can look at newer residents versus older residents who've been in the town longer and how their responses compare. Or we could look at different areas of town and see preferences by that as well.
Can I throw a quick thing in there where we have? Can you just make a note? I think we want to call the survey, I'm just throwing a name out there, 2024 Berthoud Parks Open Space Recreation and Trail Survey. I think we're not really master planning it right now. Parks, Open Space, Recreation and Trails Survey. I would do open space after parks. Thank you. And then I'll get you a new logo too.
I'll finish making that adjustment. It just formatting. There we go. And I'm sorry, not master plan.
Just survey.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. And then this next section is about current programs and facilities. So here we really want to focus on what you currently have. We have a section later on in the survey about future amenities and, park development. But in this section, we'd like to focus on what you currently have. How question 3 is phrased at the moment is how it was asked in 2016. So this can be adjusted if we want to change out these categories. And question 4 is just a different sort of version of that. Instead of asking a 1 to 5 scale of frequency, we just ask them to check all that apply. And this is the list of facility parks that are currently within the town of Berthoud, and so we can understand usage.
I think to question 3, it would make sense to add the bike park and the rec center, or maybe the Wagner Farm Park also, like. Cause if this is from an old list,
Right.
And we don't have a town park
We
and
don't
swimming
have-
pool right
yeah.
now.
Right, take out that.
So here would be a recommendation, I think on my side. So the choices of 4 are the updated choices. I think you don't need 3 and 4, I think you just need one of those.
I agree.
With the updated
I think
choices,
it's
and then,
duplication.
But Berthoud Rec Center isn't listed on either.
well, Wagner Farm Park is
so we can add Berthoud Rec Center in there,
Would you
I
consider?
think that's fine, yeah.
no, but I'm
Oh, yeah.
guessing that's what they're
The Newell Farm Park is in there.
Can I make a comment too? Depending on what you use, on question 3, it says town park and swimming pool, so there's no swimming pool anymore, so just to make sure whether you use 3 or 4, that it's just town park, not the swimming pool.
So if we take the choices from 4, add Berthoud Rec Center in there, make that into a question like 3, and then Kaylin, I think, do you usually put something in there that describes what does very often mean and what does sometimes mean? Table, like sometimes mean twice a month, once a week?
Yeah. Yep, we have a different scale. Again, so, we've evolved also since 2016, so we do have different ways that we ask this. Typically, it's daily, a few times a week, once a month, once a year, or never, something along those lines, and we have that from a different survey, so I can add that in. The things that to keep in mind as we change 2016 questions, the more that we change it, the less we'll be able to compare. So if that's not important, then that's no problem. It just considering how much you want to keep the same versus ask new questions.
I'm not sure there's as much utility in being able to compare the numbers as there is in knowing what the updated numbers are, so I think that that's probably okay. I mean, I don't know. The comparison really just shows us how the community has grown, but it doesn't necessarily add any value to the outcome of the survey, I guess.
Could it be simplified? What's the value of knowing that not at all twice a month, every 6 months versus in the past 12 months? I mean, is there really added value to knowing, breaking it down to more frequently than every 12 months?
Well, I think so, like knowing if someone uses it every day versus once a year, that really shows
Yeah, single
whether
time
it's a
annually is
priority,
pretty,
yeah.
pretty limited use.
So I would prefer that phrasing versus in the last year.
And it could serve as prioritization for other things too, right?
Yeah.
Just knowing the values.
So sticking with something like 3. Using the choices from 4, and I think we agree as well, the town's changed, I mean, we've added so much more inventory to our parks and open spaces, I think since 2016. I think we have to update the survey to include those, so.
Okay.
There's elimination of one question, cause my only concern is the length,
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
at
it's
it.
long.
Yeah, how can we make it concise?
I would agree.
Yeah.
Having both Wagner Farm Park and the rec center listed as separate
Perfect.
on the items in 4.
Moving to 5,
So the intent of 5, thinking first we start with 3 or 4, what facilities do you use? And then we want to kind of drill down into what amenities do you use at the facilities. And this may not be, there may be a few facilities on here, or I'm sorry, amenities on here that aren't applicable to the town of Berthoud. We haven't had a chance to really clean it up yet, or there may be a few that you'd like to add. So there's some additional cleaning on this question, but that was the intent, to first ask about specific parks or facilities and then ask about what do you do at those parks or facilities, or what do you use? And here, we had discussed aquatics, so this was one location where we added it in to ask about, but later on in the survey, there's an opportunity to dive a little bit deeper, so we were just thinking about the idea of having it here to understand use. But again, as we move forward into the survey, there's another opportunity to ask more specific questions about aquatics if that's what's preferred.
Sorry, just real quick, Kaylin, where is that opportunity? Cause I didn't necessarily see it.
We were thinking down in this section in the park naming and design, we could create a section within here about aquatics preferences and future planning. So it's not added at the moment, but we weren't sure the level of detail we wanted to dive into on aquatics. So as of now, it's more simple, but there's an opportunity here to add a couple questions really asking about aquatics specifically.
Yeah, can I make a comment about terminology, since that was a big part of the discussion? Aquatics is in widespread use, and I think we agreed in the last meeting that that means different things to different people. And I'm not sure if this is the place to break it down, but I feel like we were making progress in discussions the last two meetings about something, and I think Keith, maybe you came up with some terminology that might break it down to what does aquatics mean, and the two terms you used were training pool and I think leisure pool. And that's at least giving people a little more doing the service of getting what they really use, because those are, as we've talked about it, two kind of different uses. Whereas aquatics is, people will check it thinking, oh, it's a swimming pool, but we haven't defined it very well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, that's kind of what motivated some of the discussion about the survey was, what does aquatics mean to who?
Yeah, so for the purpose of this question 5, does it fit in there as it's, I mean, I know there says diving here, I know we don't have a diving here, we gotta clean it up.
Yeah, I feel like 9 and 10 are I feel like they separate those options.
How else could that be?
I mean, I think in this setting, I think what you're speaking to, like, definitely like saying, because we talked about a resort style pool and that lap or training pool type of thing. But then at some point in the survey, which I don't see, is what we had kind of talked about with, and I did see it in what you sent me, or what you sent out, and it said, for aquatics, you have two choices, aquatic facility park versus lap training park. But that's not reflected in the survey that I'm seeing here. So I think that that's something to come back to, because I don't see anywhere where we talk about that specifically, about the type of pool. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves in terms of that, but I did notice that that's not reflected in this survey, but it was in the paperwork that you sent out.
And we talked, and Kaylin kind of alluded to it, so there was an idea that we could put an aquatic section, you know, that table and the thing I put that was like high priority, no, important, not needs not met, so like we can maybe do that with an aquatics type thing in
Sure.
here somewhere, so.
Yeah, I
It's
appreciate
not
that.
in here yet, but that's what we were talking about, maybe doing something.
Okay, I just wanna make sure that we talk about that, cause it isn't something in the survey, and so I had some thoughts on that when we get to talking about that portion.
That works.
But I think that this addresses, you know, the two types of pools, but maybe leisure pool would be a better, or leisure water, something that's not aquatics, cause aquatics I feel like is all encompassing. I think it's everything. If you say aquatics, you think lap pool, diving boards, play area, all the things, and so
Yeah, everything.
when people are checking that off, they might be thinking that they're encompassing all of that.
Are we good with leisure pool area, which would include slide, lazy area, kids area, and then just going other one, training,
Sports training,
what's training?
Pool, lab or training pool, yeah.
Keith, can I make a comment?
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of good with that, but I think the kids area maybe needs to be defined a little bit more. So, for example, I think at some point in one of the surveys or whatnot, it was called a zero entry pool, and I think at one point we had talked about having, in addition to a lap or training pool, to have like a little kiddie pool. And so I think the kids area piece needs to be a little bit defined what that is, because you could also have, as part of the sports lap training pool piece, you could have a kids area as well. So I'm not quite sure how to do that, but just to be clear on what a kids area means, if it's like a splashy area with, water features, or if it's literally just like a miniature version of a pool for like a zero entry, like 1 foot type kids area pool.
I agree, Anna, but I think this question specifically where we're looking at this is talking about the current amenities. So I think that's speaking to the kids area like at the rec center. So I think is that what I'm reading? This is speaking to current amenities, not future amenities?
Yes, and that was also my question. If these fit in here as current amenities, or if these were discussed as future opportunities for a new aquatics area center.
Well, the way the question is worded, it's asking what you currently use. So
Correct.
not future amenities, but it's saying
Right.
is when you come to Berthoud. So-
Yes, and so I'm just clarifying, is the discussion also about these two different types of pools for the future creation of the aquatics at the new park as well?
I would say yes. That's the other question that we were talking about, is a question to speak specifically to what people want in the new pool, new park.
Okay.
And that'll be later in the survey.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
question that I was saying was
Yeah.
missing down the road.
Cause
But
if this is
this-
a current, if this is asking currently. then
Yeah, I
does
think
it
people
make
know what the
sense?
kids area is at the rec center. But I think it's really helpful to start cueing the language in about different uses of different types of pools when
Right.
we get to the future possibilities.
You got it. So I think for 5, we'll clean up the amenities, we'll work on the leisure pool area, which would be kids play area, slide, lazy area.
We should probably take diving area off of question number
Mhm.
5 because there isn't one, is there?
No, we gotta for that. And then also with 5, I think we're gonna ask to get rid of like restrooms.
River access.
We don't have river access and some other little things. I think we're gonna try to keep bigger amenities in there, but I don't think for restrooms I think we know we have to have restrooms everywhere, and then I don't think anyone's gonna choose that as their most important. I don't know, but we'll clean it up a little more with Kaylin and bring it back.
Do you think, could we add in number 5 to like you have indoor gymnasium, what about like workout facilities, something like that? Cause I think that's been a hot button issue with the rec center too, is the
weight training area?
yeah, like workout
Yeah,
facilities.
I think athletic courts and indoor gymnasium to me seem like the same thing.
But if you, change
Like,
indoor
I would say
gymnasium
weight
to
training,
It's a training,
versus
it's definitely a training area in there.
athletic
weights and
courts.
machines or something to give them the idea that that's what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Okay, aquatics. Label out the rec center. Okay. Do that. So then the following questions like 6, 7. Just kind of go along with that. I think we're all okay with leaving those in there to get more feedback on top amenity.
The only thing I would hesitate on here is know if anybody's ever looked at the results on these surveys and gone through all of the narrative answers of anything. If we could do something, instead of saying in a few words, please explain why that amenity is important, if we could come up with a few key things like fitness or, you know, health, kids recreation, whatever we can do to kind of give them some categories to say why these things are important to them, as opposed, I mean, that would be a reportable data point instead of it being a narrative, because I don't know that anybody reads through all those narrative answers.
So
They
when,
had them on the other survey.
yeah, so
And they
when,
did, it was 50
That was
pages of
the
them.
50 pages.
the last report that we got, there was a survey, it was paraphrased, but we got sort of, this was the most common kind of answer.
Okay.
If there were negative answers, this was the most common kind of negative answer. So they're not reporting specifically each individual comment, but they are giving us broad views of what those written answers were.
I
Can I
would
make a
s-
comment?
It's up to you guys, but
For number 5, potentially maybe you could have a ranking, maybe like rank your top 3, so that way it could be statistically analyzed. And then you could have a follow-up, you know, like number 7, in a few words, explain what amenity is most important to your household. So you've got some sort of numerical data point, but you've also got that kind of verbal data as well too, that Carl was referring to.
I think that's a good suggestion. We typically do use top 3. It depends how long the list is, you know, with 12, it depends, if with a longer list, that makes it easier. We do want to be mindful of open-ended questions and be thoughtful about where we include them, to consider what information we're learning from this and how would it be valuable. So if we're simply trying to learn the reasons why people use those amenities, you know, fun, exercise, community, relaxation, I would lean more towards a multiple response question. We always include these open-ended other sort of responses where people can expand. But you know, the open-endeds are great for kind of creative, where you're looking for more creative information. We do give you all the open-ended questions, and then we'll do a kind of high level, we pull out themes occasionally, but it depends what sort of information would be most useful for you. Whether it's direct sort of purpose of the use of these amenities, or if you're looking for people to expand a little bit more freely.
I was gonna recommend deletion of 7, just personally. And really just going back to what I mentioned before, keeping this thing concise and short, and increasing the response. Just my 2 cents.
I would say on 5, I think top 3 is great when we're talking about what priorities are for the future, but I would say my family considered, I would probably check off 10 of those. And so I think you're losing a huge portion of the data of what people are actually using if we limit it to 3 and doing like your top 3. I think that you could do a ranking, like they could rank them from 1 to 12 as to what they use. Or you could do, mark all that apply, because again, I'd be hard pressed to see many people that only use 3 out of these dozen facilities, and so I think we lose a lot of that information.
Yeah, so the way it's worded currently is this is a check all that applies, so we'll get the information about what, you know, everyone uses. And then if you had to choose one, which one is most important? So we find that combination useful to get both aspects of that, of please select everything and then choose your top 1 or top 3.
Yeah, what about turning number 6 into what are your top 3 from using the numbers above? So we're not forcing them to choose only one. It'd be another way of ranking the top 3 with but still maintaining the list of everything that's used.
Yep, I think that's fine. Mhm.
Did we say that athletic courts is the same as indoor gymnasium?
Yeah.
Cause I don't think it is. Cause there's outdoor basketball, outdoor tennis, and outdoor pickleball.
Oh. So should we do outdoor athletic
Yeah.
courts and indoor
Yeah.
athletic courts?
Or indoor,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, we can work through that.
Okay,
We'll work through all that there. And I know Amanda's listening in. She's already providing some feedback. So
but I also think we
we'll
need to
work
add
with
the
Amanda.
workout facility too
Yeah,
as a
I agree.
separate number
Yeah.
on there.
So I think we're at 5, we're gonna clean up the amenities. 6 is gonna be a top 3.
I like that.
I'm okay leaving 7 in there. It's just up to you all, group.
My take is the 6, we don't need 7, but
Yeah, I agree.
It gives you the priorities and why things are important.
Which one?
Taking out 7 and leaving 6 with the top 3 ranking.
What's the vote on 7?
Nix it.
seconded.
That's my.
I would take it out just because I feel like it's duplicating.
We can always revisit, see where we end up with in length and.
No.
But
I think there's literally legitimately folks that see a written response and say,
Move on.
and don't submit the survey. And I might be being pessimistic, overthinking that, but I do think if we can make this thing short and there's not too much for a written response, that we'll get a lot more responses.
I put NA in a lot of dialogue boxes if I have to put something.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm already checking all the boxes. Why do I have to write something too?
well, that means we lose 7, and I think that's fine.
Sorry, we didn't really, Audrey, if you have any opinions on any of it or you wanna say anything at any point, you can certainly.
I think we should delete 7, but I feel like for 6, it shouldn't be a top 3. I think it should be like a ranking of like, I don't think it has to be a ranking of 12, but like ranking of what your top most important are. Like you don't have to write them all down, but like,
So do top 3 but ranked in order, do you think?
yeah, cause like for me, I feel like I would get a 1, 2, and then like have a 3 and a 4, like, close. I don't know. I feel like that's me and probably a lot of other people.
We could do top 5 for question 6.
Maybe say up to 5, that way someone doesn't say all 12 of them are the most important.
We typically recommend 3, just more than that can be a little bit difficult. It definitely depends on respondents. Some people might have 5, but the more that we add, it just makes that decision a little bit more difficult, but maybe 4, but our recommendation, it would be 3.
Especially if it's worded as most important, like the more numbers you get, then I feel like are they really, like if you have 6 of them, the most important, like that implies that it is sort of your top choices, so I agree with 3.
Perfect. We'll stick with 3.
Sure.
Moving on to 8 is
This is from the 2016 survey. I think this one might be interesting to keep. It's just one question. Thinking about the Larimer County survey, we saw a lot of change. I mean, that was a 10-year survey of familiarity over the past 10 years, but this might be interesting to gauge as to how that's changed over time.
Just makes sense to me to have that question first.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say up in this top section.
Then you can judge the rest of their answers. If they said they're not familiar at all, then
Right.
like,
It is actually something we do typically include at the beginning, so I'm not sure how it ended up here, but we like to ask it early on before respondents are thinking about all the parks and the facilities and the amenities. So right when they start the survey, before they start to learn more about Parks and Recreation, just a high level of familiarity. So I agree with that recommendation. Thank you. Question 9, this was also from 2016. This ends up being a pretty interesting data point. So we graph both the importance and then how well that is meeting the needs of the community. In the document if that Keith shared with everyone, it's that matrix, and it kind of helps point out which facilities or amenities are highly important, but may be meeting the needs of the community less. And so one thing to keep in mind with this question is it is actually 2 questions, but the way that we program it online as well. So we want to be mindful of how long this list is, but this is unchanged from 2016. So if some of these categories are no longer relevant, and we'd like to switch them out for maybe something else that is more relevant today, then we can do that. But we do find this question provides some valuable information.
This might be one area where it would be interesting to add the indoor versus outdoor pool facilities as an importance to your household. Because that first question at least is showing if it's important for people to have an outdoor pool, because that was one part of the conversation, was that the 2018 plan, there wasn't an outdoor pool at Richardson Park. It wasn't part of the plan. It wasn't something that was on that 2018 master plan. So I think that would be of value to see if people want that outdoor pool that we've been talking about.
And just to clarify real quick, you don't currently have an outdoor pool?
No.
Okay, so I would recommend this list being current facilities because you're gonna get, however important it is, but in terms of meeting the needs of the community, it's gonna be a 0. If it doesn't currently exist, my suggestion would be probably later on to do a deeper dive into some of the pool questions more specifically, and then we can add maybe 2 to 4 specific questions about how important is an outdoor pool, how frequently would you use it, those sort of questions, but may not be the best place for amenities that you don't currently have in this table.
And it would be telling because we do have an indoor, if the response to is this meeting the needs of Berthoud is, a 1 or 2, then we know people aren't satisfied with the current pool offerings.
Yeah.
I think it's confusing that this list in number 9 isn't the same as the list in number 5. If we're cleaning up the list in number 5, shouldn't
Yeah,
this
I would
list mirror
say
that?
just make them similar.
So we're bringing in different labels and different names.
Yeah, agreed, and importance to your household, it feels like we've already collected that data and we can eliminate that and just leave it to be what's not meeting the needs, meeting the needs of Berthoud and let them rank that so we can figure out what is not meeting the needs. And then also save folks a whole lot of time and increase that response,
But is the point of these 2 data points so that we can do the graph like this where we have important not met, important met, not important
Right,
met?
but could you
Just
do
feels
that
like you can
from the
get-
2 different
clean
questions?
that data from-
Probably not if you don't rank it by number, like this, the 1 through 5, because that's
but you
how.
could use numbers to respond, there's ways you can, I feel like you could still use that question.
What I might suggest, if we want to keep this short and also get valuable data from them, I think it's good to have both the importance and the meeting the needs in this format. It would be a little bit difficult to go back in terms of that one is a top 3 and then this is on a 5-point scale. But we can just shorten this list. It doesn't have to be exactly the same items from question 5, but maybe we have 5 items here that's like parks, pathways and trails, community center, maybe higher level and not get into the specifics about picnic shelters, more of the amenities, and just reduce this list, and then it won't be as taxing.
Well, it seems like a cleaner way to do it would be take away 5 and get everything that you need in 5 into this table here. And then you have an easier easier way to chart it, if that's what we're looking for. So that seems to be sorry, I keep thinking about, eliminating.
No, that's a great mindset to have. Sometimes we have the other end where people want to add a bunch of questions. So that's not a bad suggestion. What is tricky here is it's more than just amenities. We could do that with question 5. So this is currently, we have 11 categories. I wouldn't do more than 11. So we're just limited in terms of space with the number of categories on 9, as I said, just because it ends up being 2 questions and it's a little bit more work for the respondent. But if we have a shorter list and we just want to ask about amenities only, then we can do that here. Another thing to keep in mind is, again, these items currently are from 2016, so if there's anything that might be interesting to compare over time, then maybe we do keep it for that historical value.
Hey, Kaylin?
Mhm.
I agree with you. I think, to your point on the picnic shelters, I think that could probably be one that's eliminated. And just based on what I heard from the indoor outdoor, there could be an opportunity, like for one, I think we now have pickleball courts, so that probably, we have outdoor pickleball courts, but maybe there's like an outdoor indoor type of categorization that we can do. Like you've got outdoor basketball courts and pickleball courts and tennis courts and etc. Maybe there's a way to condense that a little bit. I don't know how, but I like the idea. Also, to the point that was mentioned about trying to keep it concise, but you also don't want to lose a lot of the details as well. So maybe finding something that's not overwhelming, but not too simplified. Maybe something in between would be great.
I would wonder if for programs, we want to separate youth sports and adult programs. Because I know that there's a lot of
Yep.
folks that do adult stuff at the rec center. Is there enough, too much, not enough?
Yeah, programs, the way it is on this question, if it came from 2016, is, I agree, it's too general. Youth sports, adults aren't in there, what are aquatic classes?
You just said like adult programs and then youth programs. I think you could at least, I mean, is it meeting the needs, that kind of things?
Yeah.
Two separate.
We lived pickleball for a year, so pickleball's gotta be on here somewhere.
Well, I think in that question number 5, when we talked about splitting athletic courts into indoor and outdoor, is that they have in parentheses basketball, tennis, volleyball, pickleball. Yeah. It encompasses the outdoor courts.
Do we still have outdoor volleyball?
Town Park's getting another one.
But not currently. Well, I couldn't remember if it was going back
I
at
thought
Town
that got
Park.
nixed.
I thought we took it out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they got nixed.
Yeah.
This is something that we can workshop and kind of go back on and forth on a little bit. That's typically how we formulate these questionnaires is, you'll suggest some edits and then we can make some, edits and go back and forth to get this where we want it. But perhaps in the essence of time, we can move on to these newer questions that are specific to the park. Just wanted to give a chance to discuss the full survey.
Let's do that.
Let's move on.
What do we think of the name? Those are kind of the names that were thrown around. I think we're gonna add more stuff in there about what is Richardson Park, where is this property at? Located here. So I think we'll put that in there. Those are kind of the name choices we gave you all and kind of went around during the voting thing. Maybe something will pop up in the other, that sounds really good too, so.
Is the winner of this the name of the park?
That was my question.
I think,
Is the-
Caitlin, didn't you say there'd be a disclaimer on here?
Yes, and we did discuss that, so we'll add some language that says the town would like your opinion on what this park could be named, and it is not the decision for the park, but we would appreciate your opinion, something along those lines, to clarify that it is not necessarily a vote, but that we're just asking for feedback.
Okay, so we're good with 10.
On 11, I think for the aquatics park, we should go back to the language that we talked about on, was it item 5? Leisure pool with kids area and slide, and a sports training pool with lap lanes.
Agreed.
Can I ask the new youth advisory member, when you guys are talking about an outdoor pool, what are you imagining? What does it look like? What do you do there?
In my head, I imagine it the way that it was at the old pool. You know, lap lanes, a diving board, a little kiddie pool area, but the lanes can get pulled out and you can have like a deep end and a shallower end and, you know, the grassy area and the snack shack, and like that's what I imagine it being. I'm not really sure what the rest of us in our heads think. I think some of us think more of like a rec center, like more like resort style, I guess, is how you would say that. And then some of us are thinking more or like lap pool, you know, deep end, shallow end, that type of stuff.
So when you see something that says aquatics park or aquatics facility, does that go in line with what you're thinking, or is the language confusing in the survey and you are thinking that lap pool / training pool would be more in line with what you're thinking as far as the questionnaire is concerned?
I would think more along the lines of lap pool, training pool, because I swim, so that's just where my brain goes. But I think that would be kind of confusing just because some people will think resort style pool, some people will think training pool, some people will think like pool for kids, pool for adult, like there's so many different opinions that could go in with aquatics that it should be probably more specific.
I think, I'm not sure this is the place to educate people, but the traditional type of park that Audrey's speaking of that has, we could call it sports training, but lap lanes, having lap lanes doesn't exclude the fact that there's open swim and family swim. You know, it does both. However, a leisure pool that's curvy, that's not rectangular, does exclude lap swimming. And I don't know if that's obvious to people who were responding to the two definitions we're putting forth or not.
Yeah, I think there's also the key in there. This isn't the only spot for a lap swimming pool. Wagner is still a spot for a lap swim. So for this design, we kind of have a current design put together. I think there's questions later that you can ask, what would you change about the design? Later, for the purpose of this, it's what would you build first?
And
And
is
then
it,
you can talk later, if pool was your #1 priority, I think you can put in there, right in there, pool should be.
is it possible to get a better image? Like that,
Right, we gotta work on that,
it's, okay,
yeah.
because then I think it would be clear to people, cause
And this is where
in a better rendering, you can see what you're referencing.
there might be a page in this survey that's gonna have more detailed stuff to reference.
Yeah,
Um,
cause that would clear, you know, like it's just hard to tell from the green
Yes.
blob what,
oh yeah, we,
but with better imaging, then would be clear what you're answering a question about.
So we've talked about the two types of pools. And again, I come back to why these two things are being made so mutually exclusive. I don't know if there's some way that we could do both in the same place. And like I said, like examples like Sunset Pool in Longmont, where you have all of the amenities in one place. And And if that's an option, can we add that as an option? Because I guess I don't understand why we have to make it one or the other, because lap pools, training pool sounds very sterile to someone with 3-year-olds. And resort style pool sounds very unappealing to swimmers who are training swimmers. So again, I've said this multiple times, I don't understand why these are two very mutually exclusive things. There needs to be some, because in this, the one you sent out to us, it says, for aquatics, have 2 choices. Aquatic facility or park, which is leisure pool, slides, kids area, or lap pool, which is lap lanes and diving. Like, it feels very like it has to be one or the other. And I completely understand that if it's at the rec center, it likely does have to be a lap pool. But again, it still has that ability to have the lanes pulled out and have diving boards and have people swimming in it, in the afternoons on the weekends or in summer, however that looks. It doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other. And so I don't know how to communicate that in the survey, because it makes it sound very much one or the other. You're either getting this or that, you're not getting both.
What if we put at some point in the survey, if we did a pool, what would you prefer in the pool? Would you want a lazy river? Would you want a lap pool? Would you want a diving board? Would you want slides? Would you want a kiddie pool area? Like, what would you want? I think we should at some point put in, I don't know if it would be in this survey, but at some point we should put in the option of like, what would you want at a pool? Like, what do you want there to be?
I think that's a good suggestion as well, and that's kind of what we were thinking. We hadn't quite put it in yet because I wanted to discuss with you all first in terms of how much space we wanted to allocate in the survey to the pool specifically. But I think that would help give you more information on what features of the pool are most important to the community.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this survey is probably our best opportunity to list all the features that can happen in both kinds of pools and have them ranked in importance. It's kind of where.
I would suggest maybe not even separating, the types of pools, just having a list that fits both types of pools. So lap lanes, in the same matrix. So lap lanes, splash features, diving, kids area, and then that way you can kind of all are given the same equal opportunity for selection in the same question.
I do wonder, 11, if we should add a note about the timeline. Like, because I feel like it's important for people to know that this is 10 or 12-year project. And so
Right.
like the phasing, like be a little bit more specific on
Mhm.
the timeline of the phasing.
And that would be in that 1-page informational thing.
Okay.
This question is for you, Keith, and maybe Carl, will the data gathered from number 11 impact phasing decisions? I mean, if you see something that's a surprise or you see a much higher priority the community places on, a playground or aquatics, pool, would that provide guidance to rethink the phasing?
They could change the phasing and the design.
However, that's difficult because of, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's much easier because of the layout of the park. It's much easier to do phase 1 and then phase 2. Those weren't sort of ad hoc decisions to put what where. It was because of the grading issues. It's much easier to work top down. And so I asked a similar question in one of the board meetings previously, and if it turns out that the aquatics is much more important than phase 3 would allow it, then there might be a serious look at adding an aquatics facility somewhere else and bump it up the line. But it's the actual structural drawings of the park are in final phases based on this, and it's not impossible, but it is I'm not gonna say cost prohibitive, but it's problematic because the plans are so expensive and they're so complete that to completely put something else somewhere is gonna cause construction issues and overall timeline issues. That was the answer that I got from that specific question. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what are people being led to think their responses are? I mean, is it going to affect the plans for Richardson or not? And
I don't think it would affect the plans as much as it would affect the timeline of the plans. For instance, if you guys were, and the community were to say that a outdoor lap pool is the most important thing that they're thinking of right now, well, phase 3 might not begin, it might get pushed back a couple of years beyond what it is already planned for. But as far as I know, phase 1 is probably going to be phase 1 with the ball fields, just because of the construction issues of tearing up the ground and leveling it out and the timeline of the actual plans.
okay, well, that was a key question from our last meeting is, you know, what are the possibilities? Is it even in the realm of possibilities to flip those multi-purpose fields at the top with a pool area, aquatics? And I think you're saying no.
Cause it sort of makes the survey feel pointless if there's not any, like if,
Like we said, there's another place to put a pool.
right,
Right.
which
So-
is, but that's just a lap pool, so.
the park committee meeting that I'm missing.
It could be whatever the priority would be. That'd be lap pool, I mean, we don't know. We haven't collected that data yet.
Right.
No, that's, what I'm saying is if it were a resort style pool, are there options to put a resort style pool somewhere else?
Yeah, probably likely.
Because the way I'm reading it is if you want a resort style pool, that would be the one at Richardson Park, which would push it to 7 to 10 years. Is that what I'm getting from this?
Not necessarily. If a pool of any kind is the number one priority, or made up number,
Right.
is a high priority among the town members, then other options can be looked at, and maybe phase 3 here turns into something else.
Okay,
But the phasing of the park, because the plans are in a not necessarily final phase, but they're like 80-90% complete, those priorities are gonna kind of dictate where this park, when this park gets started, or maybe do we wanna put our priorities into another location because the ball fields they're not actually the number one priority anymore. Now it's an outdoor pool of some kind. Well, that's a different conversation to be had as far as other park planning as well. So if it's a number one priority, it may be that we don't wait for phase 3 to put in that pool. We look at other options somewhere else and bump some other project either off or back and put a pool as a separate priority based on the community feedback.
Would that area that we put the pool be the same size as the area here at the park? Or would it be smaller, would it be bigger, like?
I think that depends on the information from the survey as well.
And just to add in, the education piece is key here of how we frame this question, in terms of what is actually possible. We don't want to cause any confusion or mislead any expectations, so that is something that we can help you develop, but the way that we frame this question,
What are you
I
doing?
think would be helpful.
Sorry,
What is it?
Amanda, you are unmuted.
Oh,
Okay, so we'll work on this question a little bit. Phasing stuff. I know another part with the Richardson is the question on the artificial versus synthetic. So having something in there, which would you prefer? And then maybe there's an open-ended question. I think we as staff wanna know, like, why do you choose that route? Or why did you make that choice? So adding adding a chance for someone to write in something in. I think that's
Is there an
how we-
opportunity to provide a link if people are saying, I don't know, I need more information before I can answer that question?
I don't know that there's any one link that you could provide that would give you both
Educate
sides of that
people.
issue.
Yeah, it's
It's a
either
pretty broad,
And we discussed that as well. So, this will be a paper survey. It will be online as well, but we typically see greater response from the paper survey. So that would be hard to access. But it's hard to give that information without seeming somewhat leading in a way. And we could give definitions, which may help before asking this question. But a link adds some complication for the fact that it's paper survey, and then the online version, we don't want to direct people away from the survey and then have difficulties getting back in. But maybe some definitions of what artificial turf and natural turf are would help them answer this question.
Yeah, or I would just say grass, like, because when you talk about turf, sometimes I'm confused, like, is he talking about grass or is he talking about, like, I don't think people refer to like traditional lawn grass as turf unless they're like in the industry. So I think just
Natural grass.
would be a lot
Grass.
simpler, and then people would definitely know what you're talking about and probably not need an explanation.
yeah.
Can we take public comment?
Do you even need to say natural because grass is somewhat natural?
Yeah, I would just say grass.
It's up to the board.
I think people who want to answer the question probably will educate themselves or go out and find. Are we taking questions?
Yeah,
No?
it's up to you.
It's up to you guys.
I'm fine with it. I mean, because she's a member of the Youth Advisory Commission, is that okay with everyone?
Go ahead,
Okay, go
absolutely.
ahead.
Sorry, just real quick. Kind of like heading back to the outdoor pool kind of situation. This survey is great for adults and people like older in the community, but if you really want the youth's opinion, having a survey that's just about the pool would get more answers. Cause just like from me and some people that I've talked to, having to go through this entire survey is gonna take long, and our attention span isn't very big. If I'm being completely honest, so having a survey that's just about the pool and can get into that like specific stuff that we want there would be better, even if it's not in this plan for the fields and it's for the future, it'll probably get like much wider response if it is separately from this survey. That's just my opinion.
I don't know if the Youth Advisory Committee has any ability to do to send out to Berthoud High or something like that. I don't know if that's even.
I would also think it'd be better done on social media, talking about getting input.
That's true.
I think, what if we made a survey that we like put together as a group and we brought it back here to you guys and like see what you guys think about it?
Yeah, I think the list
Youth
of what you
input.
spoke about, what the pool means to you, that list of amenities is really useful for us to hear about.
So, I mean, how would you guys feel about us making a like survey and then bringing it back here as surveys, like directed?
I don't know if is that information that can be,
Can we say we don't know what we do with it, but we'd be interested in seeing it?
I mean,
say that.
I think it would,
I don't know if
be
it's
help-
reportable, but.
yeah, helpful data and give a window into the youth's perspective, and whether or not that gets like compiled in with this data, I think it would still be beneficial.
Just to chime in real quick, something we've done in the past, I mentioned the open link, which is the same survey. And, we're working through it and it sounds like we'll have some more pool specific questions in here. but we have created a youth specific link. And so then we can see the same questions that the rest of the community is answering, but from the youth's perspective. And so that would be a specific link that could be shared to the schools via social media. And then we can compare the results from youth of the community to the rest of the respondents. And that would be the open link version of this survey.
It sounds good, but could the youth have an input on that part of the survey?
So the survey would be the same. So that is currently the survey that we're discussing.
The same set of questions, 4 pages.
Correct. It would be online only. Sorry, we could do paper surveys, but it just takes away that passcode protected, not the statistically valid version. But we can create a unique link that could be specifically shared with the younger community.
So I have a question, Kaylin. I feel like in some regards, this survey might be biased against the youth being able to contribute because of the points that were just made, youth might have a short attention span. So I don't know if there's any way to reconcile that, but one question I had was maybe, or I guess a thought was maybe an initial survey needs to be done to see what the priorities are. And then if there's a lot of traction for the pool, then maybe there's like a secondary survey that needs to be done to get a little bit more into the details, where the youth can contribute a little bit more. What's your experience with doing that type of kind of surveys?
We typically do just, one initial survey rather than 2 surveys. There is the fact of survey fatigue. People can see, too many surveys and then we lose respondents. Something we have done is shortened surveys. So we've done it for like special events. If when members out in the community at a special event can pass out a shortened survey. So what we could do is just pull out those key questions. That would be the same as the statistically valid survey questions, but it may just be those focused on priorities of the pool and of this park, and then a couple key demographic questions. So it would be the same questions, but a shorter survey.
Because I feel like we want to be able to capture all age ranges, to contribute. And maybe not just youth, but maybe others don't have the time or the, brain capacity to fill out a full survey. And also to Sean's point as well, like keeping it short, but maybe also having even an abbreviated version that we can still capture another set of demographics that we might be missing with a longer survey as well. Might be helpful. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but.
Right, so
We can,
survey's
sorry,
gonna
go ahead.
give us our priorities and such, right? And then hashing out the details is gonna get done in board meetings where public input can be brought in. Again, for those. So that's when we'll get the finer details. I mean, this is a household survey, so if a student wants to do the survey, they can talk with their family about doing everyone can do the open link. But only so many people are gonna do the paper link, so. I mean, if the children want to do the survey, they can do the survey, they just need to do it with the family.
So kids can do the open link.
Yeah, and we're trying to do it per household.
So the paper ones, so for statistics,
Right.
trying to do the household.
Well, I think tell me if I didn't understand this correctly, but some people your age group would be very happy to fill out a 1-page survey saying, these are the features we'd like to see in a pool. Diving area, lap lane, snack shack, grass, or whatever. You do that and it's no biggie. But if you've got this at home, it's more effort than you want to make because it's a bigger community survey. So we're missing input of people who have their highest priority thinking about or are most stimulated to think about features of a pool.
They can fill out
Yeah,
half the survey if they want to, they don't have to fill the whole thing out.
Yeah.
You don't have to make separate surveys. That costs money.
Yeah.
Right, but if youth advisory wants to
Right.
make their own survey and distribute it
data
at
to us.
school or
Yeah.
whatever.
Or on your social
Like
media.
not something official like the town is paying for.
Right, they welcome to do that.
That could
Yeah, if you
benefit.
guys wanna create like a Google Doc or something like that and a Google survey, something where you can send it out in the social media page or tell your friends about it or whatever, and then bring that data back. That would be, I mean, it would be useful information. It wouldn't be statistically used for that, but it would be information that would help kind of guide the town in terms of what the youth is looking for.
I think there's definitely a couple things that for youth that we can take out of here, like
Well, I think,
like-
sorry, go ahead.
like the specific parks that we've been to. I don't like number 4, we could probably take that one out, you know, like
Yeah.
I just think that we could shorten it for the youth since we're not gonna fill out that whole thing. It's just not gonna happen. So so I think we're gonna be able to make a shorter survey that's gonna be more youth directed, and we will bring it back here and see what you guys think about it, or hand it out to our school, whatever you guys want us to do.
I, for one, am excited that you want to participate, and encourage you to participate. I think it's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. So going back to question 12, we're gonna clean up, make sure maybe there's definitions, what's the difference between the terms. Adding an extra question, an open question about why they chose that style of grass versus turf. And then also having this other open question about overall design of the park. Which they can choose to fill out or
The
not.
overall design of the park, that's a pretty big, yeah,
They can write as much as they want.
it's just free form, okay.
But I wonder what's the utility of that question, because again, it comes back to it sounds like there's not a lot of changes that can be made to the overall design of the park. If you get a resounding,
Like we want soccer fields and not baseball fields.
I mean, something to that effect, like what does that do? Anything?
I mean, I kind of agree with that. We're
Good information.
pretty far down the road to.
It's just open.
Yeah.
I think having some open spots are helpful.
I agree, I just don't know what you would do with the information if they came back and said, no baseball fields.
Was it?
Or,
I'm not speaking to me, but the board is gonna use this information and they'll, once we get the final stamp on,
Yeah, data's
yeah.
data.
So this next section is about future planned capital projects and additional amenities. This was the list that's developed in terms of future projects, and we had discussed yesterday needing some additional information included to describe these projects. So we said maybe one sentence about what these projects are, so respondents can make an informed decision, and then asking them to rate the level of importance.
Do you think one sentence would be, it just seems to me that a lot of people aren't gonna have any information about what any of this is.
Right, it's definitely the challenge that we were talking about earlier with that
Yeah.
staff's trying to figure out how to do this. I mean, we had the thought with, speaking with Kaylin about, we were gonna make a website that was gonna have all this. Again, we know people are gonna flip back and forth or something like that, but if you're at home taking the survey, maybe there's a QR link to a website for more information, and we have more details about where these projects are at or what they are. Trying to figure out how to fit this in here a little bit. I don't think we have it figured out.
And
Yeah,
and
at
the
a
cost
minimum,
difference
you-
is so major for a lot of these projects, isn't it?
Right,
Like some of them are bazillion dollars and other ones are far less.
I think it raises, as it's stated here, it raises a lot more questions than the value of data that would come back, because there's just,
Well, so
Not enough familiarity.
I know, and it's tough, cause right now, we're working through a 2018 plan that's we're kinda on hold with the 2018 plan because it's kind of been said, 2018 was a while ago, maybe our priorities changed, we're into the third park in the plan, and it's like, well, wait a second, so we're trying to make another 3-5 year plan. We don't have, the last 2018, we had master plans to follow, and now we have all these other pieces in here.
Can I ask a
So it's-
somewhat related question
Yeah.
that I should have asked a long time? Does the town have an ultimate growth goal? Like, do we have a population we think we're gonna get to and then be stable? Cause if we're making 2005-year plans, but we're growing so fast and we're now encountering, well, is the 2018 plan any good anymore? In 5 years, we're gonna be doing the same thing, like, do we have enough ball fields?
It's a growing town problem for sure.
Yeah, I just don't know if there's some, or at least 15 years out, this is where we think we'll
I
be.
saw
So
a
there-
projection
yeah.
somewhere where it was it was about 1,000 per year for the next decade. 1,000 people, is that?
Give or take,
It was,
yeah,
there was a
there's no-
chart somewhere that we saw.
That number is completely
I'm sure it is.
subjective, so there's no, there are projections as to what it could be based on various things. And I can tell you also that we are running out of developable land, which is going to cause that, which is gonna change that projection, right?
Cap on it.
But there's no cap. It's just, I think we only have, don't quote me on this, but I think we only have one major property left in town that has not yet been submitted for possible development.
But other stuff keeps getting annexed in.
It does,
right?
but
Is that-
but annexations are a different beast. Just because of the legal aspects of annexing places into the town. And so, yeah, those projections are correct as far as we know, but it's not they're not certain by any means just because of that. Because if there is a property outside the town that would like to develop, they don't have to annex, they can just do estate lots. And that would be much less population than an annex development.
Is there even 10,000 within the city limits?
Yeah, there's 13 and a half, 14.
And that's city limits, that's not
Yeah.
going without into the unincorporated, okay.
And then I
And
think,
then,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, so yeah, and Ludlow is moving forward, I think that's 1,500 homes. And so that's not part of the population that we have now. The different phases of Farmstead, right, those are incomplete as well. But there's not, Ludlow was the last major land area that's in town right now that was cleared for development years ago.
What about Creekside? That's Trails at Creekside? Is that not?
Those haven't been, those plans are moving forward, so I counted that.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I go ahead, Anna.
No, go ahead, Carolyn, I'll wait.
We
I
do have a
just-
consultant online, I just wanna throw that out there.
Was gonna bring
Yeah.
it back to question
Yeah.
14 and
Yeah.
just say.
Yeah,
We need to specify one way or another. Because there,
well,
we need to clarify, in a map at a minimum, you need a map.
yeah, and I feel too, Carolyn, just to add to that, like, I feel like there's a lot of speculation on all of this, like, we don't even know what Jaskowski is gonna be. We don't even know what Newell Farm Park's gonna look like. We don't know what Richardson Farm's gonna look like, so it's like hard to ask the community, like, what do you see as like a priority when you don't even know what it's gonna be? So I don't know I don't know if or how this question should be tackled, but it's really hard to rank what's important or not when you don't even have an idea of what it could look like. So I don't know if it's like preemptive to ask this or not, but like, I don't even know what Knievel's even has, like, I've never seen it, and I'm sure a lot of the, general, town doesn't even know it exists, so I don't know how much information you're gonna get out of this, or if it's gonna even be based on like data or information.
I think more useful information would be what activities or amenities, without putting what property is associated with the name, rather, what are the possibilities of these properties? Is it more trails? Is it more open space? Is it more, to Sarah's point, why shouldn't we put in a music and festival venue in here? Because the names of these properties, I think they will just confuse people, because they won't know what the possibilities are.
It's gonna be tough, and I'll be honest, as staff, we're being told to build all these, so by some group of people. So.
And we can help develop this question as we work through it a little bit more. This is kind of just the initial thoughts, we want to ask about future projects, and we can help figure out the best way to do that as well.
Yeah, I don't know that this question's gonna give us much. I think asking more generalized things like
I think
trails
15,
and
yeah, 15 with either a list or a free, a free narrative there. What's missing? Because people are gonna respond by activities, not the names of properties.
Agreed.
We can continue to work on this, and I have this note here more focused on amenities, and we know that there's some lack of information about these projects, and I think a website is a good idea, so we're happy to help support that as we continue to refine this question to make sure that we're actually getting useful information.
Sounds good.
This next section is from 2016. I don't think we need to go through it point by or question by question necessarily. I just kept it, but it sounds like there's higher priority questions, and if this isn't of value anymore, I would just say let's not include it. I just wanted to keep it in the survey for consideration and just for your knowledge that this is what we asked in 2016. But in terms of priorities of other questions, I would suggest removing it unless there's anything in here that would be valuable to compare over time.
Well, I think 15, the bottom part of question 17, areas of focus, is kind of what is being asked in question number 15. What amenities and areas of focus should the town be considering?
Mhm.
I think that list at the bottom of 17 is not bad if it were edited for what the possibilities actually are.
Yeah, I don't think as staff, I think we'd like to keep 17. You just added it.
Okay.
Yeah.
is 16 even something that we're looking at?
No,
Okay.
No, that's.
that was
that's-
from a 2016.
Okay.
Going down to 18, the financial stuff, Administrator.
I just want to jump in real quick. So I put in a couple different possibilities. There's no, not all of these need to be included, but these are some of the typical ways we ask about funding options. We have others as well, but it's not necessarily, I didn't mean to keep all of these exactly, but more so provide some examples of typical questions that we use.
Perfect, and if you guys will allow, staff will figure out if we want to fund the question. For 17, 18, 19.
And then
20.
20, yeah, that was from 2016, so I haven't made any changes here. But this can kind of get at priorities in terms of amenities or future improvements as well.
I like 21 also because it gives priority to what people want their money going to.
Yep. So I think we're all good to keep that question.
21.
20 and 21.
Yeah,
Yeah.
change numbers.
And
Okay, and I apologize, I deleted that one of the questions, so my wording's off, I was referring to question 20, or I believe it's 21, the $5 increments, that is from 2016. None of these other financial questions were in the previous survey. Only this budgeting question, the $100 question.
I think the list in 20 or 21, whatever it is, should match the lists that the labels that we've applied to previous questions.
We'll have to figure that, we'll work on that list. So it'll be
Just use the same vocabulary throughout.
And we're gonna see it again, right? So
And then this trails and open space, again, not sure if this is the right time to ask some of these questions again, but these trails and open space questions are from 2016 as well.
I think we're gonna pull those two out.
Yeah, it's covered.
Pull them out.
Communication, that can be interesting to see. I'm sure there are differences over time and to kind of test what methods are most effective. So if we have room, I think it might be good information if you'd like to include it.
need to change the name of Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, I think we'll keep the communication in there and we'll edit that one internally and talk with how our staff typically does that.
And then we do like to add just one open-ended near the end of the survey. We do this on almost all surveys just to give respondents a chance to elaborate on anything that may have been missed in the survey or provide any additional suggestions. So we do think it's helpful to have one here at the end just to kind of provide one last opportunity. And then the demographics, these are the same as 2016 and they're the same demographics that we use today. And these, we keep these because we also will compare the demographics of the survey sample to census data of the town and make sure it's actually representative of the community. If there's any weighting of the data that we need to do, we can do that. And then these questions are also good to do any additional crosstabbing or analysis, so we can look at households with children versus households without children, how they respond to the survey, or age. So just a couple options there with the demographics.
Can I ask a question on 31? I mean, everything is built ADA accessible. Now, is that? I mean,
It's on her.
I just had a question. So you standardly still ask that question?
We do. It's not necessary though. If you'd rather not include it, one of the other questions we typically add, not to compare the two, but I'm not seeing it on here, is whether respondents own a dog. That, sometimes dog parks are a big topic, but if this ADA question doesn't provide any useful information, then we can remove it. I know that there's also, census data and things like that. So it's not required.
Okay, well, I'll talk with staff to see. I was just curious on that since the early 90s, everything was supposed to be ADA accessible, so it's.
Might be interesting with us building this new park that's inclusive, or, the new Lauren Bowling's project. It might be an interesting data point to have just for that.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
Can I make a comment on the demographics as well? I would suggest / recommend that Kaylin, what you just kind of explained to us about the demographics, could you put that bit of information in here, such as this information is being used to make sure that the survey is statistically representing the town as far as the census goes, or something like that? Because I know sometimes people are hesitant to answer these specific questions because they quote unquote don't think this has anything to do with any information that you need. So just I think just a simple explanation to tell people that this isn't for any sort of ulterior motive, it's just to make sure that the survey respondents are an accurate representation of the census information that we have for the town.
So I was curious about making it optional, if there was an option.
Yeah, I was
if
just
we-
gonna ask that.
If we could make the demographic section is it still valuable to you if?
I think this value is more for that reason, right, to make sure that it's statistically valid, so that if somehow randomly the surveys end up in in an older community, it might not be a statistically valid
Yeah,
representation.
And that is typically what happens. Older residents are more likely to respond, as well as female, and so that's just who tends to take surveys more often. So we do find it valuable, and I just want to point out all the questions are optional. Online you're able to skip through any of the questions, so we don't necessarily call it out, but all questions are optional.
I'm just curious, I guess, if it's worth calling out, just to increase responses, if it's mentioned, because like you said, some people are kind of sensitive to the demographic section and kind of, never mind.
Well, hopefully it's at the very end, so if they get to the end, they've already answered all the other questions, and then they can just skip that section.
Yeah, I think there's some sensitive questions. I mean, some people aren't comfortable stating their income or, responding if they're a voter. They just wonder why. It seems maybe
Yeah, race, all that
too
stuff.
personal.
Yeah, we do keep it at the end for that reason. Sometimes we include prefer not to respond options, so we can go ahead and do that.
Sounds good.
So just to add the pool stuff back in here, I think we were gonna try to fit another question in here that was more pool specific, and I don't know if we need to discuss that more, or just we're gonna try to put a what's your priorities in a pool type question together.
Yeah, I think giving multiple options and not just those two options is what I would suggest. Is having the option of either or and. So, I mean, instead of making it a one or the other kind of thing.
I think we have, through all our discussions, we have a finite list of features that we all know about and would have it on a list for consideration. It sounds like the Youth Advisory Committee will give us more input too.
So are we putting it out there at all in this that Wagner is an option for an outdoor pool?
That's a big question.
Sounds like a can of worms, 'cause
Yeah,
then you have to open up.
I don't
like-
wanna
Yeah.
interrupt, but I think the data is more important at this point, because that would tell us the specific wants of the town, and then we can figure out the details.
Yeah, I guess
Later.
making it clear that there is another option other than Richardson, somewhere like that.
I don't know if that, like, I can't remember, I didn't hear who said it, but I think that would open too big of a can of worms. I think it would be more important to word the certain pool questions carefully so that it's not denying that it would be somewhere else. But I don't necessarily wanna say, hey, if you could have a pool, where would you want it? Because then you're gonna get the focus on where it's gonna be instead of what do you want. I would think, that would be my opinion. If we get enough information about, yeah, a pool is really necessary, we can move forward probably faster and cleaner than where do you want it? Cause then, like I said, I think then the conversation might get bogged down in that aspect of it as opposed to what do you want? But it's up to you guys, I mean, it's y'all's survey, so.
Well, I think just to get back to Lauren's point from earlier, I mean, in an ideal world, a rec center, if it were a complete rec center, would cover all the aquatic needs, it would have lap lanes, it would have an outdoor pool, it would have the lazy river and the diving area. And I think that that's in a perfect world, so I don't think we should word anything that excludes the fact that, you know, maybe we can't have it all. You know, maybe we can answer everybody's needs for features in a pool.
Right, I think what you're saying is not get bogged down in the details of like, if you want a lap pool at Wagner, or do you want a resort pool at this, like,
Right.
more just saying, what are the amenities that are important to you, what are the things, so if it resoundingly comes back that a resort style pool on its own is the design that people are really wanting. I do think it's tough, cause if you say, so if a resort style pool is the pool that people are wanting, then does that mean that we just stick with the plan as it is and it's a decade?
Well, I think that's why
Yeah.
the other data point inherent in that question is how important is it to you? Which could change the timeline, right? But I don't necessarily wanna give people a bunch of options to say, well, you do have space here, why aren't you doing it? As opposed to
Right.
saying, hey, this is really what we want, and then staff and the board can work to try to fit that into the schedule, as opposed to getting people upset that, no, look, the survey said we all wanted a pool and we wanted it now, why is it not happening? Without necessarily having all of the background information of where and when it could be, the soonest it could be possible, if that makes sense. So I think the data of what are the important amenities for the pool and how important are those amenities to have is pretty clear that that kind of project should be bumped up the line.
So multiple questions regarding the pool, is that what you're thinking? Cause I don't think any of these questions address. I mean, honestly, it's tough, cause when you look at questions like number 5, or however we're gonna word that, you look at this as like, what are the things that you want in the town, that kind of a thing. A lot of these things we already have,
Mhm.
and so I don't know that you're getting that priority basis of current projects that are happening. So if you were to
What?
put out
Thought that was number 9.
It is, but we're not separating out, it just says aquatic facilities and pools,
But I thought
that's
you
it.
guys, I thought they were gonna work on the wording.
Well,
to-
yeah,
on
but
the
then
next
she
draft.
said not to bog this down with having way too many responses either. So I think you lose that part of the question of like, so if we took like question 14, the way that it's worded now, and instead of using all these projects that are in the works, and wording it as more of like, these are the working projects, these are the capital ideas, like, so the arboretum, trails, dog training facility, baseball fields. I don't remember what's in Town Park Phase 2, is it a amphitheater?
An
There's a
open
splash
space,
pad,
splash
isn't
pad,
there?
yeah.
Well, Splash Pad's
That's
Phase
phase
1.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, you have the open field on the south. There's a little playground, north side's kind of open as well.
So would you recommend then maybe adding a specific pool or 2 questions? How important is a pool to you?
Well, that's what I think this Richardson question, like, it almost, I totally get the point that it helps you know what the town would prioritize. But then why even specify it to Richardson if we're not like,
Right.
why not just in general ask, like, the town is prioritizing, you know, additional ball fields, additional playgrounds, additional aquatics, additional multipurpose fields, like, and then do your priorities. Because then it sort of implies that like,
This is changeable.
that is changeable and that
Yeah.
like this is the option for.
So not to throw a monkey wrench in the whole process then, would you guys recommend that there be a sans Richardson, not related with Richardson at all, a specific pool question or section?
I think there needs to be a question that's specific to the type of outdoor facility that people want. So resort style.
Richardson aside, not
Richardson
in
aside,
any-
I think
Yeah.
that there needs to be
Yeah,
a
I
question
think there
about what
needs to be
those
both.
priorities are.
Okay.
But also what the priorities of the town are for the capital projects that are in the works, what we're working on right now. And, you know, cause Town Park Phase 2 has not necessarily gone to design phase or any of that, correct?
Mhm.
So that- Pardon?
Yeah. It's all done.
It's all done?
Well, it's all designed.
It's designed, but it's not, like, we don't have a bid out on contracts for that or any of that kind of stuff, or?
No, I think we just have to search it out.
I guess the point is that when we do these surveys, so I think one resounding thing that I have heard in my discussions with people in the town is, what does it matter anyways, the town's just gonna do what they want. So what I don't want to happen from this survey is people say, we want this, but that doesn't really work because Richardson Park's already designed, so then we're like, yeah, you wanted that, but we're not gonna do that. And that's what it's gonna look like if we make this look like, what do you want at Richardson Park? Oh, but we can't do that because we've already designed it. So I have that concern that the town is gonna look like they're doing what they want despite what the survey says.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's too,
2018
Yeah,
master plan.
so how
Right.
about, I'm sorry to interrupt,
well, I
but-
just feel like it's too late to ask people what they think about Richardson. Like that.
That's what we're saying
So
here.
what if in a separate question or a separate series of questions, it's a graded response, how important is an outdoor pool? 1 through 5, not at all. And then a secondary question, a follow-up question, what kind of amenities, if it is important to you, what kind of amenities would you like to see included in a pool?
Yeah.
Which
And then,
separates it from Richardson
like,
or
they can
not.
check multiple
Yeah.
boxes. But I still think it's important to know the priorities of a pool over ball fields. That's like kind of the main question with Richardson. So we still need to have a question prioritizing, say 5 things, ball field, multi-purpose ball fields, baseball fields, aquatics, we still need that question, cause the town needs to know, is a pool really the number one thing that people want? We still need that question. And then we need to know, okay, what specifically are people looking for in a pool? So I think those need to be two,
So I'm wondering if the survey should more be a question about what are the town needs and wants? And then the locations are a totally different topic, but is the idea of this survey not to get an idea of like where the town's at right now, like what are the town needs and wants right now? And
I think, like, question 9, I thought was gonna kind of solve all that once we worded it a little better, but it's like, is it important to the house, and then where's it at?
but it
Are these
depends if
being
those are, I mean,
So
I think if it was
if we
worded
saw
right,
that
it could.
pool's very important, but the needs aren't met, and we had the right
Yeah.
pool worded, then we know. Cause in this previous survey, it just said aquatic center, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
And
Right,
the
and it's
town
not
built something like that.
I like-
specifying indoor and outdoor.
I like the idea of
So
saying
that's
how
what we're
important is an outdoor pool facility, and then in a perfect world, what does that facility look like?
Yeah.
A, B, C, D, whatever, what does that pool include? I think those are
Mhm.
very ambiguous ways to ask that question without linking it to a specific property and without anything else. And so if those come back as high priority, I guess my next question would be, if everybody says, oh, we want the resort pool and we want all of it, we want something that meets everyone's needs. Is there an option for that outside of Richardson Park? Is there an option for that in town? I mean, you're
for a
talking about
pool.
limited space.
Well, it would depend on the specific data from the survey, but it's my understanding that it is possible to put a largish pool on the south side of Wagner, on the south side of the rec center.
So I feel like that would be a question. Like that would be
Right.
something we'd have to figure out after the survey, like
Mhm.
one
I
other
didn't
thing-
realize
And that
that
would
that
be
was an
dictated-
option, that doesn't look like a very big space.
Yeah, that's totally.
And that would be
that's-
dictated by-
it was designed for that.
It was designed for a pool, but if you look at the size of that area, doing some kind of big aquatics facility isn't really,
Right, it would be like town park, it would be a traditional pool. Now, whether that's,
but again, that's what I'm saying, if we're looking at, if people come back and say we want this big
right,
pool, whatever, and then we go, okay, well, we're gonna build you a lap pool in this space at Wagner Farm.
right, so
That's-
then we have to work with what we have. And if people want a big resort style pool, the reality is it probably has to go at Richardson and that's gonna take time. Like that's just is what it is.
Yeah, and
And there's no reason why we couldn't have both. It's just the resort style one is gonna take a long time and smaller pool facility could possibly happen quicker.
exactly, and I can't speak to the board, obviously, and I can't speak to whatever happens on the community survey, but if it were really important to have an outdoor lap pool, then maybe we do decide or plan on having both, and maybe that pushes phase 3 of Richardson back further so that that more resort style everything pool can be built. But later, but for now, to satisfy the needs of an outdoor pool, we work with what we can have. And that changes the phasing and the development of the parks overall. But the people are still getting this thing which they find important, and that way we would know that and we could move things around hypothetically.
Yeah, I think ultimately that will be the most realistic solution to all of this is we will have what we can have for now, and then 10 or 12 or 15 years down the road, the town might build a big fancy thing.
I agree, I just think that timing would change people's opinions too. You said you can have this now or this in a decade, that might change the way people
Right,
vote for
yeah,
these
so
things.
like Keith said they would sort of.
I feel like there's been 2 questions just put forward right now that really simplify this whole pool issue, and one is calling it an outdoor pool facility. That language is really clean, and if we're saying, how important is it for you to have an outdoor pool facility? And then a subset of questions, what are the features that are important to you in an outdoor pool facility? I mean, I think that will provide everything we're looking for. And just one more comment, I think Richardson Park should be disassociated from question number 11 for reasons mentioned. We're not asking them for input on Richardson because it's pretty much designed. And question 14, I think, also naming all those properties that people aren't familiar with is unnecessary. I mean, I think they care about amenities, not what the possibilities of those properties are more important to them than the names or the potential.
Can I go back to location real quick? What are all the like, if we weren't to do it at Richardson Park, are there multiple options or just the wherever we said Wagner would like, are there multiple options or is that the only one?
I think
That-
mostly like
Wagner, just because it's much more cost effective because a lot of the water infrastructure is there that just has to be tapped into. Whereas any other location, new infrastructure would have to be built, which would be rather expensive.
Okay, and then where is Wagner, first of all? I'm not really sure where it is.
it's
The rec center, okay.
The entirety of the property though, south of the rec center all the way to.
Okay, if we were to put a pool there, like the Lap Lane pool, this is just like me asking this, but like how big would we make it? Would that just, like, is that something we should put in the survey? Like how, like, if they wanted a pool like that, how big would they want it? Cause like, if we were to do a Lap Lane pool, I would want like 6 to 8 lanes, but that might not be something that could be considered.
That would be helpful, maybe ask what's the minimum size and specify a number of lanes.
Number of lanes, yep.
Because have you been to the rec center?
Yes, there's
So the area, unless I'm incorrect, the area is that sort of lawn patio area to the south of basically the slide. That's the area that's plumbed. And I don't know the details of what could be prepared or not, but that's the area that would be set aside if that were the ultimate answer.
I think that those sequence of pool questions would be a good fit in terms of how important and then specific features. And then I've been taking notes so we can add in number of lanes as well. Yeah, so I have notes on the full survey. And so I can work with you, Keith, and your staff and make some of these edits and help clean it up a bit to get it more reflective of our discussion today.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Caitlin.
All right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Talk to you soon.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
I just, now that I don't wanna take up any more of her time, so now that she is done. I just wanted to share, I found this when cleaning out my desk. It is the mailer that the political action committee in town who wanted the bond and the 1% sales tax to pass. This is the mailer that was sent out to residents. I saved it because on the back of the card in bold letters, it said that it would support Berthoud schools. And at the time, the schools also had a bond that they were trying to pass. So it was seen as very deceptive, so that's why I saved it. But the images on the front are clearly of what we're talking about, and it says on the back, a new pool. So I was just gonna show this. So when people ask, like Keith, you've asked, and I know Chris has asked or said, like, I don't know where people got this idea from. That's where.
2 out of 6 of the images on this are of outdoor pools.
So it's
And the traditional type, like Audrey was talking about, traditional rectangular pool with lane markers that you take in and out, and you have aqua size classes in there and senior
anyway,
classes.
so like if
and-
you read the back, it very much sounds like
We're getting.
we're getting a new outdoor pool, because at the time all we had was an outdoor pool, so when you say a new pool.
I think that Steve sent that one out.
No, I know who sent it out, they heard from me. Former and
So-
board members.
A 25-meter pool is called a short course pool versus a long course Olympic pool, which is 50 meters. So I don't know if we want to add some verbiage in the survey, but that's what, looking online, it looks like a 25-meter pool is called a short course pool.
25 meters and 6 lanes, it's kind of like the minimum for training for youth programs and swim teams, and
Yep.
6 lap lanes would be quickly reserved, I think.
And like, think about it, right now, we only have 3 at the rec center. And we don't even have blocks there to dive off
Yeah.
of and that.
Oh, thank you.
That wasn't, and that's not a town
No,
postcard, that's an ASCAC, that's what I was like,
no, it was the, they call themselves Berthoud Kids and Community, it was the like political
Okay.
action group that funded that mailer.
What year
But
was that?
It was board members who were that committee,
Got it.
2018.
So just if, for wondering where that
Oh, absolutely,
information
yeah.
came from.
Cool. I appreciate it, I mean, this survey's gonna be good, we're gonna get through it, we're gonna hopefully get everyone's concerns met on it, but I'm excited for the data. Yeah. So the second agenda item I had on here is a quick update. I'm gonna breeze through this because this isn't out to the public yet. The county sent out a survey. I can't remember the timeline. It was recently. So you guys said you didn't take it.
I took it.
You took it? If no one got it in the mail, I think is what, unless you did.
No, my mom, I mean, they live at Horseshoe, so she's very involved.
Got it. So yeah, I know the town, we worked with, we were able to go to the meetings with the county to like look at the questions and so forth. So the county has been doing a open land, or Our Lands, Our Future survey, and they kind of update it every 10, 11 years. So a lot of the questions were similar, and then they just reworded a few of them. RRC actually did this survey with them. So. Let's see, so we started it in the summertime. It's finishing up now with analysis and reporting. Probably next meeting, we'll skim through some of the data so you guys can see what they pulled out. And what's really cool is how they give you like I think it's gonna be open to everyone, they give you like a website where you can click on, okay, I wanna see what these type of people think about this question, and it really graphs everything out real nice. Survey went out to almost 8,000 people, about 1,000 responded. And that's the mail-in survey. There's also the open link that went out as well. And this was, a lot of this is just, some of our open spaces are considered in this, but again, it's mainly geared towards the county. What we're gonna be able to look through out of this, and I think one of the surprising things, we thought e-bikes was gonna be a pretty big part of the survey, and I don't think there was a lot of feedback that we got from e-bikes, actually, in the end. And when they look back to the previous surveys, it seemed like parking was an issue still, and maybe it still is with parking, but today's just a quick overview of what's going on. She was getting into like the weighting, the census data stuff. I can't talk you through that, but the way she explained it is, it sounds like older people and then females fill out more surveys. I don't know if that's what they got out of here. Okay. Key findings. This isn't all graphed out real nice. Yeah, I like less wording personally. So 68% of people are familiar with the open spaces, which is up from 46% from the previous survey they did. The levels of satisfaction. So the highest priorities people had, their most important priorities, pretty much all the needs were met with those priorities, which is nice to hear in a survey. And then, since things are becoming more popular, it looks like the parking concerns, dog waste. The concerns they're seeing in the county open spaces. Let's see, just kind of highlighting this. Land for additional trails, open space, wildfire risks, mitigation, drought are the three highest priorities people have with open spaces. There seems to be a support for maybe a tax, increased tax if they were to propose one, increased tax for open spaces. And then there's a mixture of people that want conserved open spaces versus recreation. 41% prefer an equal balance of conserving something. So like we have concern with ag land, it's just gonna be open space because people aren't gonna be out on it technically. Or just sometimes you get, I think, wetland areas and stuff that just don't get messed with. But for me, I mean, we see this whole mix of people with us too. We have, you know, our comp plans and stuff like that. They want an open space corridor down Mountain Avenue, down Highway 56. That's not necessarily they're all going to be active recreation corridors. And that was just the intro. Next time I'll come with some nice graphs and stuff. So this is all they shared with me. That they said we could start updating people on. So I'm not allowed to share the other stuff here. It's not officially here, but that's it. I'll go into my updates real quick. Pickleball court's supposed to get surfaced on the 15th of April. It will be closed for like a week. That's if weather holds out and stays nice. But right now we're scheduled for the 15th. Closed for the week then. And that area will be wrapped up. That's my only update.
Any other staff updates?
Steve, you got any updates you want to share with the rec? side? Amanda usually shares, Amanda is here.
She is here.
It's kind of
No change, no change, no change.
weird. It keeps raining.
Steve, did you mention anything?
No, I was looking through my notes, see if I got anything that's shareable.
The only thing I wanted to remind everyone is we do, summer registration started April 1st. So just to let everyone, remind your friends and folks that has started, and then we do have our spring craft fair coming up next Saturday, as well as Skatapalooza on April 27th. So we're super excited about those two events, and the youth advisory club that's there, our committee, they have been working really hard at putting together a youth scholarship program for their group, and then also becoming very involved with all the different events throughout the town. So super excited to be a part of that. Steve and I are their town liaisons, so hopefully we'll have more as we get going on that.
Thank you,
That's all I
Amanda.
got.
Alright, committee updates?
Mhm.
Audrey, do you have any updates?
No updates.
Nope.
I have a question, but I don't think it's for the purview of this committee, and I could ask it of somebody else. It's about the bike lanes.
Yep.
And parking. High school students park on the side of Spartan opposite the high school, and they block the bike lane. So I've heard from probably 4 or 5 cyclists, it's like, how can that happen? And I went down to look at the signs, and the signs are confusing, because there's some signs that say no parking this side of street.
Mhm.
And there's other signs that say, you know, no parking from here to corner or something. So the signing is confusing, and I know it's not for our committee, but who should be, you know, who should we address that to?
Me.
Oh,
Yeah.
have you noticed it? I mean, are
I
they
mean,
allowed to
yeah.
park there, or?
They've always been allowed to park there, even
Okay.
though we tried to.
Cause it
No
completely
parking.
blocks the bike lane, so there's no point in, you can't have both parking and a bike lane.
You know, I'll try to bring that conversation back up. So we tried to create something with those bike lanes where we made like the islands in the middle, and then I know people, you know, the road kind of moves in and out. I don't know if everyone likes that.
It is
I
confusing
thought
there.
parking was gonna stop there, but that was the whole point. I think there was gonna be no more parking on the south side. So you cross a little easier without cars parking. If you're gonna cross, so you weren't like blocked visually by the cars anymore.
Is the parking lot of the high school inadequate? I'm always looking there, it always seems like there's spaces, plenty of spaces there, it is.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's 0 parking there, like, especially if you have track meets, you have 18 teams there. People are parking in the grass.
This seems like happening on every school day,
Yeah,
that they're,
like, there's 0 parking, and then, like, it's dangerous to park in the parking lot. Like, every single week, someone's getting hit. Someone's having to tow their car out of that parking lot because it is just like overall dangerous to park in that parking lot. And getting out, I wait 15 minutes to get out of that parking lot every single week. So like parking, and like this year's the first year we aren't able to park on the side. So a lot of people are just like, well, I've always parked here, I'm gonna park here. Cause I'm like, even some of the police officers park there too. Because there's just 0 parking in the parking lot, and then they finally repainted the lines. So like parking has just always been a problem at the high school. Like rarely ever do you find a parking spot, and then like certain areas where you park, you are egged. You get coffee thrown on your windshield. Teachers have had their cars be broken into. Like people park on the street because it's safer.
do you have any idea what percentage of kids drive alone, 1 car, 1 student? Is it lots or?
Yeah. My brother and I drive separately every day. Like So we drive 2 different cars to the school. Like, majority of people drive separately because bus routes aren't going anymore. Like, there's shortage of buses, so like a lot of people are just one, driving illegally and just driving like by themselves.
Related to that, I don't know if you know this yet, but what's gonna happen when Spartan becomes a through road, when the connector goes over to Nebraska? Is that gonna change the traffic pattern?
I can only speak to like what's south of like Vine Park. I know that gets widened. You Rose Farm, you get an accelerator lane right there, but I don't know of anything widening wise going on this part.
Okay, cause if Ludlow goes forward according to plan, that's also gonna connect to 287, which is gonna cause a lot more commuter traffic to go down that section. So that might cause serious danger issues if people are parking when they're not supposed to be parking and trying to cross the street there. If it's a commuter access route now.
I agree. I'll bring that up again. I mean, I think it's always been posted not to park there. I
Well, the
think it's painted
signs are,
yellow.
it's hard to interpret them.
I think it's
I
painted
mean,
yellow. Maybe down the whole lot.
So Zoe, do you have an answer to this issue? Like, do you need a bigger parking lot? Is there a safer way that this could be handled?
can you ride share?
That is we could ride share, but there's just so many different like off hours. Like I have 5th and 7th off every day or every like week. So like people are constantly coming like in and out. Like I don't have a way to like fix this unless you can expand that parking lot, but it's already like our town is growing. We're getting more students every single year. So like we're less and less like parking spots available.
Yeah,
So like
also unfortunately, that's a school issue, not,
Yeah, which
That's
they
not the
do have a
town.
survey out currently, speaking of surveys, so that would be good to, cause I don't think that's part of the next bond and mill levy.
I don't think that the high school was anything, was it? Any mention of upgrades or anything for the high school?
So that would be. But on that note, I would also say that because of trees, the 20-mile-an-hour signs are hard to see on Spartan, for sure. Both the like pines to the west and the trees to the east, cause I pull out onto that and I can't see either sign coming out of 9th. But I asked and I was told by the officer, if unless you are seen driving like past the sign, you can't get pulled over for it. Like, because I'd be entering in the middle of it and not driving past one. And then he proceeded to tell me the times and it's like, well, I mean, I generally know what time school is, but I'm not gonna remember like, it's 8:46, the sign has turned on or whatever. But they are hard to see because of those trees.
Got it. No, that's good feedback. I haven't had any bike lane feedback in a while. It's good. I'll check on them. And then I'll check on those signs too.
I mean, there either is parking allowed on that side of the street or there isn't, like, and doesn't seem to be a definitive answer.
And yeah, that may come down to the sheriff if they feel like enforcing it.
It's school parking situations override things sometimes, so I gotta work on that.
Tim, do you have any updates?
Yeah, I have a question for you guys. We got a presentation, or sorry, Anna.
Oh, Anna, do you have any updates?
Nope, none for me, thanks.
In the last meeting, we got a presentation from Rocky Mountain Conservancy. And they had a call to see if there was any way that the local communities could work with their conservancy. And because they kind of consider us a gateway community to Rocky Mountain National Park specifically, they asked if I could solicit creative ideas about how to work with them to get people interested in the park, or programs that we could work with or that they could work with to get interest in the park, or information, or just any kind of interaction between the two, both our town and the Conservancy. So just float that around. If anything comes to mind, just let me know.
Have they had presence at any of the town, like birthday day or anything like that? Have they ever had a booth or?
I think so. Anna, have they had booths at Bertha Day? I only ask you because I think Sean would know.
Honestly, I don't know if they've had a booth in the past, to be honest. I can ask, but I don't think so.
So just general public outreach would help.
That's an easy one that comes to mind, yeah. I don't think I've seen them around. I
Getting
think a
rid
lot
of
of folks
time
would be
entry.
interested.
I know, it's interesting that they want
Getting rid of
more.
time entry.
Yeah, are they
I feel
looking
like
for
they're
more
bursting at the
visitors?
That's the
seams,
number
like
one
they
thing
want
that
more
makes me
people.
not go to Rocky Mountain National Park. I will go anywhere to go hiking to not go to Rocky Mountain National Park because I can't get a timed entry if I'm going like on a Saturday or if I just on a whim, and there's just no chance. And so you either have to go, what is it, before 8 a.m. or after 4 p.m. I think it is, or 3 p.m. And then if you do have a timed entry, you sit in line and wait for 45 minutes before you get into the park. So I think that that's been a huge deterrent for people. And I don't think that it's improved anything in terms of parking. I still have to park at the base and get a shuttle up to go to like Gem Lake or that area. I mean, I just think the timed entry system was great for what it was, but I think it's definitely deterring people from going.
Or the opposite, maybe it's proving that that's all it can handle.
True.
Like, so, but it does, surprising they want more engagement, cause I would think they'd be like, we have enough people.
Yeah, I thought the timed entry system came from COVID though, like
Well,
to
it
try to
did
create.
because, no, it's because they had so many people, because that's when everyone
Right.
decided to go outside.
Mhm.
And they couldn't handle the crowds. I don't think it as much had to do with spreading people out, I think they were just completely overwhelmed with the number of people. So,
But yeah, if you guys think of anything or know of anybody that has ideas, just let me know.
I asked last time, do I need a motion to adjourn? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Oh, motion.
I'll second.
Meeting is adjourned. Was a long meeting.
So hungry.
For our
I think
meeting.
you warned us about the survey that it would take a couple meetings at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah, I'm very glad we got ours.
It's supporting the town and not. You know what I mean?
I told you you need to be a lawyer.